The Barrie Landry professional training program in child protection was really the brainchild of two, I would say, brilliant and trend-setting individuals, as is so often the case. You need somebody to think outside the box to create change. You need a surround space, but you also need, I suppose, what we call leaders, people who have the courage to think differently. And in the case of the Landry training program, there were two people. One was Barrie Landry, who is a philanthropist who's really dedicated not only her resources, but her intelligence and her passion to protecting children. So she has worked very closely with UNICEF, the UN Child Protection Agency, for decades, in a way in which not every philanthropist does, going everywhere on trips and really taking to heart the work and participating in long conferences. I mean, it's very much part of her DNA, something she cares very deeply about. And she has also been financially very generous to UNICEF USA. And she, I think, had this notion, partly because I think, and I have never really asked her this, but I think because she lives in Boston, her husband was an alum of Harvard University, I think she had this notion, a really good notion, that so many child protection professionals had not really had the opportunity to receive a high-quality academic training through no fault of their own, partly because they came from, education systems which were impoverished, because child protection as a subject is kind of like, if not at the bottom, certainly at the lower end of the pile in terms of government priorities. Many of them had training as social workers or nurses or some other sort of professional training, which was a good start, but she didn't have the kind of edge of a proper, deep understanding of the complexities of this field. So that was Barrie Landry's vision, try to bring high quality education to people who are doing child protection work globally. Her vision's always been, global, that this is as much about Mali as it is about Vietnam as it is about Boston. The other brilliant person, also a woman, is Susan Bissell, who is someone who is a doctor of political science and a very kind of lucid intellectual, but also a very effective practitioner and leader. And Barrie Landry and Susan Bissell had worked together for years because of Barrie Landry's engagement with UNICEF. And so this idea germinated of trying to do something at Harvard for, initially the idea was people at UNICEF who did child protection work. So that was really the seed. So you had a kind of expert leader, Susan Bissell, and you had a dedicated philanthropist, Barrie Landry, together wanting to create something new. And that's where the FXB Center came in. I was actually hired to come over as director of research because I'd worked on children's rights issues, which was not a speciality that was that much in evidence at the center, but had always been a primary concern of the donor who founded our center. And so this new idea of child protection sort of landed in my lap. And bit by bit, we developed the Landry program. And I have to say that, like with so many things, it was really trial and error, but also having the humility to say, this is actually not working that well, let's try something else. So initially, the idea was to bring UNICEF mid-career child protection officials to the FXB Center for a period to work with me, to work with others, maybe to do the odd course, and at the Chan School. And we had, I think the second year we did this, we had 2 or 3 people. I remember one was from the country Georgia and one was from Iran. And they said to me, look, Professor Baba, this is great. We're so grateful to be here. But actually, and the Chan School is great, but we would also like to have access to Harvard more broadly. We would like to take courses at the Kennedy School. We would like to take courses at the Ed School. There are things happening at the law school. We're here, but public health is a key component of child protection, but it's not the only component. We need to understand, a whole range of other issues. And they really then, so I said to one of them, our Iranian colleague, why don't you, as your final paper, write this idea up. And she did. She wrote a really good paper saying what this could be is Y, not X. And I think that's what we created. We created Y. And so we developed this training program, which I must say I'm very proud of, even though I should only get about 10% of the credit, because my colleague Rebecca Shin, who now directs the program, has really been the lifeblood of it. But the program, I think, is well structured. It is really focused on the multidisciplinary importance of scholarship for child protection. And I think that is pretty unique.